This is a screw you. This is in your face. And they're doing it on purpose to send a message. They're sending a message, and make sure you got receive mode on your radar and you're receiving it. Embrace this. It's a screw you. If you're American working class, you don't count, you don't matter. Here's what we need you for. We need you to drink the polluted water and shut up. We need you to live near the polluted creeks and shut up. We need you to have those houses that they don't care about, but they're sitting there. Remember, they only did the release and burn because Shaw was most concerned. What were they most concerned about? They were most concerned about the liquids in the tanks, the rail tanks, exploding in the shards of iron and steel that would come off of that and hurt the local surrounding area. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a bald-faced lie. That's a bald-faced lie. A bald-faced lie. And how can they lie to you and treat you like a moron? Because they, at the end of the day, they don't care what you think. You don't matter. You are actually the underpinnings of this entire nation. You're the underpinnings, you're the foundational element. What you see in East Palestine, Ohio, is the foundational element of not just the greatest country in the world, but the greatest country in the history of the earth. Okay?
Whoa. Hey, what's up? Tom Dunn, Vicky Joy. We are the troublemakers, and we're proud of it. Troublemakers for the devil, and we're back. I lost track of the seasons. I think this is season 6. That's what we're calling it. And I had a very busy, very restful, very productive, very non-productive. Does that even make sense? Do you feel like you've been productive, but you've been not? You could have been more productive. Vic, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Nice to see you, stranger. It feels like we've been gone like months, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but I guess that means I got a good rest in there. But yeah, I had a good time off. I actually got tons of writing done. The podcasts are kind of settling down, so life is sort of a little more normal these days. So it's all good.
Hey, yeah, I got some things done, but they weren't the things that I planned on getting done.
Well, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm checking off things off my list. Cool.
Yeah.
It was a different list than I was thinking about, but anyway.
Yeah,
and
right.
Then, Vic, as you and I are just, as they say, lollygagging around, crazy things are happening, right?
Yes.
In the world. Yeah. Weather balloons and space balloons and spy balloons and train derailments and explosions and toxic everything everywhere. What the heck is happening?
Right. Earthquakes in Turkey and shaking the seat of Satan out there in Pergamum, right? Yikes.
Yeah.
The whole globe is a shaken.
No kidding. Well, we're going to get into it tonight. I do want to mention, folks, just in case you don't know, yes, you are watching Through the Black. ThroughTheBlack.com is the website. And if you go to that website, that's where you can see all of our junk, our movies, our T-shirts, and you can see a slide there, a link to Out of the Darkness Conference, which is happening very soon. It's actually next month. Vic, we're over halfway through the month of February, which it's a short month anyway. So next month, March 31st, Brookville, Ohio, the Out of the Darkness Conference. It's going to be Vicky Joy, myself, Colleen James, Pastor Sean Carter is going to be there. It's going to be Sherry Clausen. It's going to be Mike Spalding, Coach Dave Daubenmire, and of course, Dr. Gregory Reed. An amazing time of ministry. If you're coming from, if you need ministry and you're coming there, there's going to be an opportunity to sign up to meet with our teams. There's going to be 2 different teams that are going to be meeting as the conference is happening. So there's going to be an opportunity to sign up for that. There's going to be an opportunity to come and hang out on Thursday night before the conference for a time of prayer. And I'm going to be sharing about a project I'm working on. That's going to be 7 to 9 on Thursday night at that same church. And then there's going to be an opportunity before the conference. As these weeks go on, we got about 5 weeks here. We're doing this show for 5 more weeks. I don't know how we're going to come up with the material where, like, it just kind of happens every day, right? So,
Yeah, right.
but we're going to be giving you this information. I got a lot of the schedule done. I'm trying to nail down some details, but I'm really excited about the way that it's going to happen. So, so many people over the last couple of weeks have bought tickets, and people are supporting, people are praying. We're going to be giving you guys the information on how to do the streaming. Okay. So that's coming up, all of that in the next 5 weeks. So stay tuned here and we will let you know all about that stuff. So anyway, Vic, man, there's so many things in the news that I want to talk about, but it seems like this, maybe because of geographically where I live, that I'm kind of drawn to what's happening here in East Palestine, Ohio. I had so many people sending me emails, calling me, sending me text messages. Tom, are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, what's going on? Why would I not be okay? And then I find out, like, okay, I didn't know this was so serious, right? And then I'm looking into this. So, guys, I'll be honest with you. I'm not okay. Okay. I'm not okay, but it's in a good way. Okay. So I want to share something with you real quick, and then we're going to get into the show tonight. But let me just read to you out of Matthew chapter 11, real quick, verse 28. It says this, and these are the red letters. It says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me that I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Guys, tonight I'm standing on that scripture. You ever have, like, you just know something's not right? And my friend Russ Dizdar, he would always say, if you get a check, check it. You know, I got a check tonight and something's bugging me, and I could probably list off several different things, that could be bugging me, but I feel like it's something else. But you know what? I'm standing on God's word tonight, and I've had a burden today, and I got a call. By the way, guys, we have a guest tonight. I got a call this morning from a friend, and I'm like, maybe this is it. Maybe this is what's bothering me, and we, my friend Rob called me, and we talked about what's going on up in East Ohio, right on the border of Pennsylvania. So anyway, I don't know what it is. We've got the normal stuff, and there's a lot of things I'd like to tell you about, but it's just going to have to wait for another time. Folks, we want to get into this, and we want to hear from you guys in the chat, in the comments. What are your thoughts? What do you think about what we're saying? Vic, I'm going to probably be reiterating this tonight. I want to just really lean skeptical when it comes to this stuff. And I'm like, man, I can't believe that they're doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm looking for any logical explanation. All right. And I'm not saying that this is what we would call a conspiracy, or this was a setup or a sabotage. I don't know, but there's a lot of things that look suspicious.
Hmm.
So we're going to take a look at those tonight, and we're going to show some clips. Again, we want to get your guys' feedback. But Vic, I want to introduce our guest tonight. This guy, I'm not going to go into the long introduction, okay, because it would take forever. But let me just say, for the last couple years, that my friend Rob and I have just had an appointment once a week to hang out, to pray for our city, and to pray for each other, to fellowship, to kind of be a sounding board for each other. He really ministers to me as I minister to the listeners of this show. And he's been such a great friend, and him and I have just really confided in each other, and just iron sharpens iron, right? And just building each other up. I can't say enough, good things about this brother, but I'm not bringing him on for any of those reasons tonight. He's a friend, but him and I have a burden just for, some of these things that are happening. And one of them is what's happening in East Palestine. And he'll correct me in saying it. It's Palestine, not Palestine. I want to call it Palestine. East Palestine, Ohio. So I'm going to bring in my friend Rob. Hey, Rob, what's going on, my friend?
Good to see everybody. Yeah, it is East Palestine. I'm not from there, but I'm from the Youngstown area, about within 20 miles. And yeah, you're correct. It's always been pronounced East Palestine, as far as I know.
Okay.
But it reads Palestine, but it's pronounced Palestine, I guess you could say.
So, Rob, I think it was last week, you were one of the first people I called because I knew you live close to that area. You grew up in the Youngstown area, and you were one step ahead of me because you had already called somebody back home to get information about what was going on. So,
yeah.
And you found out from somebody who that not all the information that we were getting was correct, right?
Right. And part of the problem is that they were telling me that a lot of the news reports around the Youngstown area were very sparse, very hush-hush. They were hearing things word of mouth through family and friends from the East Palestine area that were kind of not in line with what the local news, 27 KBN being one of the channels. And so I actually checked back with them today, knowing that we were going to do the show here. And my person told me, I won't say who it is, but it's a family member. But they said that all of a sudden they're starting to hear more of the things that go in line with what they're hearing word of mouth, and even what you and I are hearing and the rest of us are hearing nationally and internationally. So, there's definitely, it seems, I can't say for sure, but it does seem that there is a concerted effort to, I don't want to say censor, but censorship comes to mind. And, maybe it's because they're close to the ground zero there, and they would, maybe they would say they're trying to stop panic from ensuing. But, 2 weeks on, it's just now starting to loosen up to where, I'll just read some of the liner notes that they told me. They said the local news, the trains are running, no cleanup as of yet. They're starting to admit that no cleanup really happened. They just slapped up whatever tracks that they needed to get the trains running again. It's funny, there's a train in the background as I'm talking to you guys. I can hear it nearby. Some people have moved out, even though they were getting the all clear to move back in. A lot of the residents that could afford to stay away were saying, no, it's not safe. We don't feel safe. We don't trust you. And and the news media is actually starting to turn and admit that locally, and starting to admit that, and even going after, going after the trained people themselves, trying to point blame now as who's to blame and who's at fault and all those things. And so they're actually starting to loosen up and talk about that. But that was the thing that really stood out to me, was the lack of information my family member was getting through the media up until just recently. So they were really putting the limits on what was being said on the news, in the locale around the East Palestine, Youngstown area.
So, Rob, we're gonna get into all that stuff tonight, and we're gonna cover a lot of ground. I think that it's gonna be relevant if we get into what some would call conspiracy type stuff. Okay. I think of events like this, of course, maybe probably all of our listeners, they're pretty up to date. They probably know about the film that came out last year that was called White Noise. Okay. And there were even some people in East Palestine that were in the movie. Okay. And
they shot footage in that area. Yeah. It was, a lot of the scenes were shot right there. In fact, someone made the point that the creek, however you pronounce it, depending on where you're from, that now is full of dead fish, is in one of the scenes. I guess I didn't see the movie, but I saw clips of people are floating downstream in their car, and you can see dead fish all around them. And it's supposedly that was where those scenes were shot, and now the actual, it's the actual site of the very thing that they were. They were doing a movie about.
Kind of interesting. So, Vic, I can't remember if I asked you this or not. Did you see the movie Knowing?
I did. It's been a long time, but I did see it.
So I remember when that movie came out, I want to say 2010. It could have been 2009. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it came out. So let me explain this. Nicolas Cage movie. The movie is about knowing things before they happen and knowing like these cataclysmic events. All right. Like 9/11, just maybe earthquakes, things like that. So there's a whole, I would recommend people go watch the movie. It's kind of interesting. But there's a scene in the movie where the main character, Nicolas Cage, is watching the news, and there is an explosion in the Gulf of Mexico with an oil well right there. Well, that happened, if I remember right, it happened a year after the film came out, almost to the day. Okay. So the movie has these scenes of an oil rig on the Gulf of Mexico on fire. And a year later, it actually happened. And you can kind of interchange those scenes, and you can't really tell the difference. So I want to play a clip from that movie. And, I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know. What is the missing connection here? We're going to talk about that. Let's watch this clip first, and then we'll talk about it. Long intro. So
Experts say solar flares this weekend may disrupt cell phone communication.
Experts.
Problems concerning for the family talked to reporters after the press conference today. The price of oil hit yet another record.
A devastating fire burns out of control in the Gulf. That story leads our headlines at the top of the hour. Plus, all the latest world news at midnight on October 15th.
81.
Tonight in the Gulf of Mexico, an explosion on the soon-to-be decommissioned oil rig triggered a fire which burned for 3 hours before it was extinguished. Officials don't yet know the exact cause of the explosion, but believe a malfunction in the cooling system may have been involved.
And good afternoon, everybody. I'm Drew Griffin in for Rick Sanchez. Let's get right to the breaking news, which is not good at the Gulf of Mexico. The oil rig that exploded, this incredible video, that oil rig has now sunk. 8,000 barrels of oil leaking per day. The Coast Guard still searching for 11 missing people. Ali Velshi is going to join me just in a second. We're going to talk about financials. We're talking about oil capping, getting rid of that. But first, let's talk about the real disaster here, which is the 11 crew members who are missing from that oil rig.
The Coast Guard is searching in the Gulf of Mexico this morning for survivors from an oil rig explosion and fire. The rig is located 52 miles off the Louisiana coast. The blast was reported at 10 o'clock local time last night. There were 126 workers on board. Most are safe. At least 11 still missing and 7 injured.
So anyway, we get the idea here. There was a clip from a movie, and then a year later, it actually happened. Now, okay, I mean, what if somebody, makes a movie about an earthquake last year, and then we have an earthquake this year? That wouldn't, Hollywood has made a lot of movies about earthquakes. This seems so specific, and the footage was so similar. Okay, and we have Hollywood fake footage, and then we have real footage. And Vic, this is not the first time this has happened, right?
Right.
We've seen this in 9/11, where you look at the passport, Neo's passport. The movie came out in 98, I think, and the passport's expiration date was the exact date, September 11th, 2001, the day of the attack on the World Trade Center. Mm-hmm. So, and there are other examples of this. Okay, we see this all throughout media. And the common thing that was said all the time is this is their religion. They have to let you know what they're going to do before they do it. Mm-hmm. Now, they don't have to do anything. They can do whatever they want. They kill people all the time. These guys are ruthless. They're satanic. They are just have absolutely no heart, and they don't care if the ground is safe or the water is safe to drink. They are glad to poison it. And in my opinion, they're glad to not even warn you that it's going to happen. But they're sociopaths and psychopaths, and they love to do this sort of thing. What do you think? We can't. I don't think we can prove any of this stuff, but interesting.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm thinking kind of the whole life imitating art, or is art imitating life kind of philosophical argument. Because, in a way they look godlike when they can pinpoint it to that level of detail. It's the same city, it's the same body of water, it's the same timing. And so you just wonder who's in on the gag, if anybody. Is it just pure serendipitous coincidence? We were talking once with the 9/11 stuff, Tom, about how there was an album cover that was going to drop on September 11th, 2001 by The Coup, a hip hop group called The Coup, COUP. And it's the two band members standing in front of the Twin Towers with plumes of smoke coming out of the upper, top of it. But it wasn't just like this coincidence, kind of like what we're talking about here. The picture of the Twin Towers aflame was it was the flames coming out of the same floors of the building. It was the same image. So you just have to ask yourself, were there people in on it, or do we live in this world where coincidences this big and this specific happen this frequently?
Rob, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, someone in the comments section there, even brought up The Simpsons. It even goes to that point to where I don't see The Simpsons a lot, but I'll hear about this stuff and I'll go. You can go on YouTube and find anything, and there are a lot of things that they posted years before events happened that were pretty much on the nose. I know the enemy is at work. The enemy will do whatever the enemy can do to glorify himself and steal glory from the Lord, from our Father, from Jesus. And it's not a far-fetched thing that, that the powers, the prince of the power of the air would be able to pull off some of this stuff through manipulating people's minds in the entertainment industry. And like you said earlier, you can't prove it on paper, but there are so many instances of this happening throughout. I mean, just go back the last 2 to 3 decades, and I'm 56. Go back into my 20s, and I remember things like this happening. Going back into the 1980s. So, it's hard to see it and not say, wow, there's something there. But again, you can't prove it on paper.
With that thought, okay, let's take a look at the trailer, part of the trailer for the movie White Noise. Okay. And as we're talking about this, somebody, said predictive programming. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's what they call it, predictive programming. So let's check out this trailer from White Noise here. And check this out, guys.
Let's watch a sitcom or something.
No! They're calling it the airborne toxic event.
They won't come this way.
Will we have to leave our home?
Of course not.
How do you know?
I just know.
Okay, what if it's dangerous?
Evacuate all places of residence.
We have a situation. All we have to do is stay out of the way.
They're passing us, Dad.
Technically, that's illegal.
Do sheep have lashes?
Ask your father. We're going sideways.
Dad, do sheep have lashes?
Doesn't anyone want to pay attention to what's actually happening? I wish there was something I could do. I wish I could outthink the problem.
There are 2 kinds of people in the world. Killers and dyers. Most of us are dyers.
So, man, if we analyze that trailer right there, we could really say that's sending out a message. Okay, there are 2 kinds of people in the world: killers or the elite, and dyers. Okay. Now, if anybody saw the video at the beginning of the show with Steve Bannon, he was basically saying, you don't matter. They don't care about you. This is a big screw you to those people in that part of the country. We have a president, okay, who instead of going to, Ohio to give them any kind of aid, went to another country, okay, to make a promise of more aid over there. Yeah. And whatever you believe about that, or whatever your feelings are about that, mine are, personally, I don't think that town wants the president up there, but they sure could use some help from somebody.
Well, and the hypocrisy, remember back when Katrina hit, how Bush made it down there, but he wasn't there within 24 hours. So they were excoriating him for not caring. And here, if it's on the other side of the aisle, it's okay. It's not even mentioned. Another thing about this White Noise too is it's a dark comedy, and that is, I think, saying something too. That's another screw you. It's like, we're going to predictively program this event that is going to affect real people in real lives down the line, but we're going to frame it in the genre of a dark comedy where this is all just fun and games and it's silly, and the people that are even involved in it, instead of being afraid or traumatized, they're just cracking jokes. And it's a very strange genre of film to pick for this type of a plot.
So those trains, when they folded up, I mean, it looked just like what happened, like those drone shots of East Palestine up there. Rob, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Wow.
I mean, it's somebody did a video where they compared the footage side by side with the movie footage, and it was just which is which. It was hard to tell them apart. Even the clouds from the burning, the explosion, it's just too similar. It's bothersome. It is bothersome. And I have the same reaction. Okay. And this is, I'm going to go back to 9/11 because this is the basis of you and I coming together as friends. I think that people had told me, kids that I was doing concerts, bands in the local area here in the Mansfield area, kept saying, "Oh, you got to meet this guy, Tom Dunn, man. You guys would just click," And so finally, I just called you up, and when we met, the first thing you said to me is, "What do you think about 9/11?" And you said you just kind of held your breath to see. And again, I don't have any of the answers. I don't know what's going on, but there's always something that just doesn't feel right. There's something that doesn't sound right. The narrative that they hand out, the answers that they give, don't line up with even the physical realities that we know. And I won't get into all the 9/11 stuff because, I've literally been physically threatened for saying, I don't have the answer, but it just doesn't seem right. People get upset when you say that, but this has that same, it's just not right. And I saw someone in the comments earlier that said just the way that town has been treated is just unacceptable. And absolutely, it's unacceptable. We should not be okay with this. Tom, you brought up to me the other day when we were talking, the train tracks are less than 2 miles from where I'm sitting right now, running through Mansfield. This could very easily be me right now at ground zero of this quote unquote chemical nuking of a town. The one gentleman in the video called it that. And none of us, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, whether you're a D or an R or somewhere in between, because those people always get discounted. It shouldn't sit well with anyone. It's bothersome. It's wrong. And to see the images look so similar to what we saw in those clips just increases that uneasiness for me.
Rob, yeah. And, back then, that was 14, 15 years ago when you and I met.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stigma with saying 9/11 was an inside job. And back then it was a big deal when you said something like that. It's not as big a deal today because so many of us were saying 9/11 was an inside job. There's something not right here. So, anyway, I forgot the second thing I was going to say, but we were talking about it could have happened in any town, in Ohio between here and Illinois. I mean, I can't remember where the train was coming from, but our town has 50,000 people. That town has 5,000. 5,000, is a nightmare. I couldn't imagine, what would happen here. And we're going to get into this later, but nobody's talking about these guys moving out of this town. I'm not an expert. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a chemist, but I'm listening to a lot of people that have those credentials, and they're saying, I don't even need to go up there and do the test. I know it's not safe to be there. Okay. So, of course, the governor of our state has said, yeah, it's okay. Go on back. You can drink the water. We're like, what is he talking about? We can see, when they walk down to the creek and kick the water, kick the stones, that the rainbow clouds pop up, okay, which indicate chemicals. So, there's a lot of things that just don't add up with this. I know what it was I was going to say. You said it earlier, Rob, the prince of the power of the air. We cannot underestimate the ability of our enemy, okay, of the demonic realm, of Satan himself, and their ability to control things from the supernatural side, okay, planning things in people's minds, okay. We know on this channel we talk about this all the time. The enemy has the ability to tempt us, right? So he has the ability to put tempting thoughts in our heads. He has the ability to put ideas in our heads, and for people that are turned over to the enemy or don't have the protection of salvation, they're wide open to suggestion, okay. So could that be one of the answers, that these things are coming supernaturally, and then that there is, we know there's satanic power, that they are manifesting these things, okay? And then I have to say that this is an event that could have happened because we have horrible infrastructure in our country, okay? When I went to a train, I went on a train in Germany, from Germany to Poland, and man, that thing was fast and smooth. Our trains are not like that. I don't, when I'm in a train track, I don't like getting too close because I'm afraid it's going to fall over on me. You know what I'm saying? I'm afraid there's going to be a derailment right there at the crossing. So anyway, our infrastructure is a mess in the United States, not only trains, but roads, bridges, all of that stuff. I was complaining about my town is just a mess. It's just, roads are constantly under construction, right? And things are getting neglected. I saw a picture the other day of a train, of a bridge, a trestle that went over a water that just had giant chunks of concrete that were missing. And this is something that's used on a daily basis. And when that thing fails, all of those tankers are going to plunge into that water. So anyway, guys, take a note. If we miss anything, we'll come back to it. I want to talk about the suspicious things that are connected to this, okay? So here's something that popped up a couple months ago, okay? And the story just recently popped up, but this took place in East Palestine, and they, the fire chief up there was trying to implement this medical ID tag, and we're going to watch a video here in a second. It's about 2 minutes long, lots of clips tonight. But Katie, if you could bring up that article, and I'll read the headline and just look a little bit at this story. And it's they wanted to implement this in East Palestine. Here it is. East Palestine rolled out special ID in case of emergency just months before chemical disaster. A nearby farmer has raised concerns about the launch of the My ID emergency service in East Palestine just 1 week before the recent train derailment in Ohio. The farmer, who lives 9 miles from the incident, contacted the Gateway Pundit to draw attention to the increasing number of unusual coincidences related to the event. My ID reportedly includes biometric surveillance. The Norfolk Southern incident has wreaked havoc into the health of citizens throughout Ohio and western Pennsylvania. Coincidence? In October 2022, Local news encourage the residents of East Palestine to sign up for the new biometric tracking device. My ID provides first responders with updates on persons' health conditions in the event of major disaster. Bob Moore, a 70-year-old farmer and longtime resident of the area, initially ignored the advice. Moore explained, it's exactly a week before the derailment happened that people were asked to go to the local fire department in downtown East Palestine to get my ID. So, guys, okay, this is my take on this, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. We're going to watch this video. This seems something a little bit, and I could be wrong here, a little bit too high tech for a small town. You know what I'm saying? Like, this seems like something that would happen in a bigger city where you have more advanced hospitals and more advanced medical care. Not saying that they don't have what you need there, okay, in East Palestine, but I guarantee you nobody there is going for any kind of major surgery. They're probably going to Cleveland, right? I mean, you know, that's just the way it is. We didn't have, I live in a pretty big town, and people used to travel a long way to get certain kind of treatment. This seems kind of advanced, and it seems kind of random for this to be implemented in this town. Maybe there's a good reason. Rob, I mean, did you hear this?
Yeah, well, today, after you and I had talked, I went ahead and went to the East Palestine, Ohio website, their actual official city site. And there's a video on there that I think is the one that you're going to show that we had talked about. It's right there on their website. And somewhere in the description on their website, they talk about them being selected as a test city. And they spin it like it's this great thing. You're walking around and they're taking all your vitals and every bit of your information 24/7. No, thank you.
Nope.
I'm bad enough, you know. I have a cell phone that I allow them to track me too much as it is. I can at least leave that at home, or, you know, Tom and I recently invested in the what do they call them, Tom? The bags.
Well, a little Faraday, yeah.
Yeah, the little Faraday bags. We each bought one of those, and, you know, so, you know, at any time I can, quote unquote, disappear if I just feel a little ornery and don't want to be tracked.
Well, yeah. And sometimes,
you know, but at least I have options there, you know.
About the you know who.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, they're going to get clever about this, because I don't know how national this is, but in Minnesota, there are companies that are issuing to their employees Apple Watches, because it's got the health monitoring and the heartbeat and all that. And it's a stipulation that if you don't receive this and wear it a certain number of hours, you lose your health insurance. And I have friends in Minnesota that all of a sudden, like, they now have their Apple Watches. They got 4 kids. They're not going to lose their insurance. So this isn't speculation. That this is actually happening. So it's not this little mandatory, like, hey, you want to be part of this test? It's like, you're going to lose your family's health insurance if you don't get this tracker put on your wrist. And we all know
It's terrible.
It's not going to be a watch. It's going to be something, you know, that you can't lose.
Yeah.
That can't. We know where this is headed. So this stuff is just very disconcerting to me. It's like, you don't need to know my heart rate and how many steps I've taken, and that's up to me. And if I want to be an unhealthy American, just leave me alone, you know?
So, guys, we're going to watch this video here in a second, but I want to bring up, and someday Vic will talk about this, but does anybody remember the show The Lone Gunman, which was a spinoff of the X-Files? In the very first episode of that show, they had what we believe is the exact plot for 9/11. Okay, government insiders were going to use planes to fly into the World Trade Center to give us a reason to go into war. Okay, and that's another example of that predictive programming. I know. I want to mention that, so I could throw it out there so people could look it up themselves. Okay. It's just another really good piece of evidence, connected to that. So again, how do we prove this stuff? I don't know. But Katie, if we could watch the video on the ID tags, let's check this out, guys. This is what we're talking about.
Columbiana County coverage now, and East Palestine is known as the place to be. It's way ahead of the curve on a program to provide better treatment for anyone in the event of an emergency. I learned how it works and how it can help everyone in East Palestine. My ID provides quick medical information for emergency responders. Darlene Chapman is the outreach coordinator for this project, and she's an EMT.
If they're in a situation where they can't tell us or they don't have any family around, this is something that would make my life easier.
My ID works by taking a camera phone and pointing it at a QR code. It provides valuable medical information such as allergies, breathing difficulties, or other conditions, so you get proper treatment and care.
If anybody sees the QR code, you'll be able to scan this and get the information. So it helps that person, not necessarily just here, but anywhere in the nation.
There are a few options for My ID: a bracelet, key fob, necklace, or attachment on your watch band. You can choose the one which fits your lifestyle best. That's up to you. Orders will start in January. The fire department has already collected $5,000 in donations to help.
That's our ultimate goal. We want to be able to give this for free to the citizens and provide them with that extra layer of care so that we can better treat them.
The offer includes Unity Township, which is served by the East Palestine Fire Department. These items cost around $20 each. You can even buy it for yourself. The fire department is hoping you'll be willing to wear it.
My goal is to have 100% of our residents and the citizens we serve in the township to have one of these and be working with them to make sure that we can treat them better and provide the best service that we can.
There's a 3-year plan to get My ID going across the village and make it available to all 4,700 residents.
Guys, I'm sure that there are benefits to this program. I'm sure there are things that would make sense, but you know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think that we can take our chances getting by the way that we've been, the way that we have been.
I just want
go ahead.
I'm just going to point out that they had to strategically, in the middle of all that, give us a close-up of the rod of Asclepius, the serpent god of healing. That you got a 30-second story. You don't want to waste any film. They had to close in on that. That was very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when I listen about all this technology and the benefits, and you need this and you can't live without it, and I was raised by a mom and a dad that were born in 1919 and 1922. My dad was born in 1919. I was born very late in their life, so I'm still here. They're gone, but they lived through the Great Depression. My dad's childhood consisted of walking the rail lines and finding piles of coal that some of the kind-hearted engineers would knock off of the cars as they drove by if they saw a bunch of kids. And my dad would find the old railroad ties that were soaked in creosote and drag them home so that he and his dad and his brother could cut them up and burn them, which wasn't healthy.
Hey, Rob, for some reason, your voice got real gargled there for a second. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
So anyway, God bless that lady there in that video, the one with no teeth. And I'm not by any means making fun of her, but it could be kind of an indication to how far, you know what I'm saying, like out in the country that these guys are. You know what I'm saying? How rural they are. All right. And not making fun of that lady at all, but this is not like a modern city whatsoever. It's kind of interesting that randomly these guys are used as a test town to do this, and I'm sure this is probably happening all over the country, where they are picking out, some of these towns. Maybe one of the tests is see if they can get people to sign up for it. Another one is just to run the test and see how they can track people. Okay. Now, I don't know how much more they can track people. They already have, phones in almost every person's pocket. Vic, I have one of those Apple Watches, so they could very easily get my heart rate, my heartbeat, and a few, what I'm saying, a few other things. They know when I exercise, they know when I do this or when I do that or whatever. So I think it's a little bit suspicious. We want to bring these things up tonight. One of the things that we've been doing on this show is, well, we say this: we want truth. We want truth. Something stinks. You know what I'm saying? Something's rotten. I don't know what it is. Okay. It doesn't do us any good to say, hey, I'm going to plant my flag on this mountain here and say 100%, this is what they did. This is how they do it. This is who's involved. And all of these things, if we're honest, we just don't know. We just don't know, but we have a lot of information. And Rob, you and I were talking about this morning. You're telling me this stuff and I'm telling you this stuff. And I'm like, I just don't want to believe that they're that sophisticated, but they are that sophisticated. Now, did they do it? I can't prove that. Okay. But it seems pretty suspicious, and we're not even covering everything. Guys, be honest with you. The closer I got to the show and when I was looking at all the information, I got a little bit of anxiety. I'm like, dude, there's a lot of information and I don't know how to cover it all. So that might be part of my my anxiety tonight. Like, this is just a lot of stuff here. And I want to do it justice. And it's like, and then I have this just burden for the people of that town. And what, what are they going to do? So anyway, one of the things I've been seeing, and Katie, I don't know if you can do this or not. I sent you a link for a river runner. This is kind of cool. And I don't know if you were able to do this or not, but you can type in East Palestine in that river runner, and we can see in a simulation, a computer simulation, how the water from East Palestine, where it goes. Okay. And it's really kind of interesting. I don't know who made this program, but it's super cool. So and she's got this. So check this out, guys. This is starting and for anybody who can look up in the right-hand corner, you can see like it goes down and it shows all of these little rivers, and then it goes into the Ohio River. Okay, and this is water from East Palestine. This is where it goes. We are now going down the Ohio River. This, keep in mind, this started in East Palestine. All the way down the Ohio River and goes into the Mississippi River, into the Gulf of Mexico. But super cool program, website, and you can type in any place really in the United States and it'll show you the path that the water takes. So I don't know how they figured this out, but I would be interested to see the ones that come into my city and which way they go and all of that. So, but
have you guys ever seen the charts with the water tables under East Palestine and how far out those water tables go and what they're connected to? Besides the river damage, there's also the water table underneath where the water, runs off and goes into the ground. It extends. It's terrible how far out it extends. It actually, I think it might even reach out to the central Ohio, like near Mansfield, and then it goes down south. Someone in the comments section earlier said that people in I think they said over on the border of Ohio and Kentucky and right in there, Louisville. There's a run on water right now because people are freaking out. I can't blame them. I mean, with what you just showed, where that goes and that with the water tables, it's not good. That's for sure.
So I want to mention this. If anybody has any information, if anybody's from the area and even in East Palestine, and you want to reach out to us, and you either send us an email or even possibly come on the show, at some point and tell us what's going on and tell us what the need is up there. Yeah. Okay. Rob, you and I were talking about this morning. The church has got to respond. We have an email, throughtheblack.connect@outlook.com. We don't normally cover disasters like this. We do a lot of covering of human trafficking, satanic occult type stuff, exposing that, and reaching out to people that need to be set free of strongholds and deliverance for whatever things. And we talk about paranormal stuff. We expose all of these things. But you know what? Regardless what the truth is about how this started, there is a definite cover-up, okay, of the disaster. Can we call it a disaster? Of this, of this spill up there, okay? Their response to it was crazy. Did we talk about this yet? What they did? I mean, they set this thing on fire, which I saw somebody talking. I watched so much information on this tonight, and I couldn't even tell you where it was. I got tired of sending clips, honestly. I'm like, this is just too much. But I saw a guy who worked for the railroad. I think he was out of Youngstown, Rob. And he said, I've been doing this for years. And he said, never have I ever heard of anybody setting it on fire.
He said that's. I remember that one.
You remove the dirt. You dig up all around. When there's a chemical spill, you put down some kind of material to soak it up, and then you dig out and around and underneath, and you remove that dirt and you haul it out somewhere. I don't know where you take it, but I mean, just the response, it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that, their excuse was they wanted to get the rails back. It does in a greedy way, but I just can't believe they will be so brazen to do this out in the open, because they have to know that they're going to get sued. So, but apparently they have the money and they know how to cover it up. So, I mean, what's you guys' response to that?
Well, I can tell you something else that I saw to go along with that. Unless you had something, Vicky Joy, I don't want to cut you off.
The only thing I have to say is when I'm confused over whether or not something is planned or not, one of the first things that is suspicious to me is when they break every protocol of the cleanup, because that's something we saw at 9/11 as well.
I saw another video where a gentleman was talking about his experience in these matters, and he was talking about the fact that when you have containers like this that haven't been breached yet, and there's fire around them, you just continually hit them with the water. You keep their temperature down, and if you don't, they develop what's called a blevy. That's a weakening of the metal, and it actually is a little balloon area that will, structurally it begins to give way, and that's where, if you've ever seen an aerosol can explode and you see that point where it just opens up, I think that's what he was kind of referring to with these tanker cars. And I don't know if he had inside information or had heard or seen that they weren't doing that. And so the temperatures were climbing and were in danger of exploding. And so the railroad, the very people that own these vehicles that crashed these, not saying they did it on purpose or not, but the very people that, are the real people were the ones we've heard that came up with the idea to pour all this stuff in a big ditch and set it on fire. If that's true, where are all these government agencies, all these alphabet agencies that are supposed to be the experts? And like to your point, Vicky Joy, when they break all of the basic rules of the ABCs of what is supposed to be done, again, we're back to our earlier point where you're going, something's just not right. What is going on? What are they doing?
Hey, Katie, can you cue up the Doug and Stacy video? We're not going to watch the whole thing, but I kind of want to watch the beginning of it as Vicky is talking. I can't remember. Was it your turn or?
No, I just think it just made me think of 9/11, where, this is a crime scene because it's an act of terrorism, and we're loading everything up on barges and shipping it off to China. Like nobody wants to test that metal or come on, man. It was crazy.
Yep. Yeah.
Now we're seeing the same thing. And
well, in the EPA, again, there's another example of I think it was the EPA telling the people, hey, it's safe to go down there. How many people died because of of that smoke and that debris that they breathed in after 9/11 because they were down there cleaning it up?
Yep.
First responders, there was a ton of them that were wiped out.
Yep.
Because they were there on the scene.
Isn't it kind of ironic after 3 years of being told that the clean air is toxic and we have to go out with triple masks on, that you can all return to your homes after a spill and you're going to be fine? They can't even keep all of their stories straight. 3 years you've been convincing us that the air is toxic, but it's not after a spill. Come on, it's just
Vic. That is an amazing point.
Yeah, where's Greta? Where's Greta? Come on, Greta.
Greta, right.
Like for all of us now, Greta. Come to the rescue.
Exactly.
The environmentalists should be just having panic attacks and just freaking out, and they should just be blowing their tops, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the Gaia worshippers should be beside themselves now.
I don't know. There's so many little things that it's like, okay, this doesn't make sense. But anyway, if you've got that video, Katie, let's watch a little bit of this. Yeah, this guy right here. And this is a video. I've seen this guy before. I've watched a few of his videos. He's been covering what's happening with the chickens not laying eggs. And that's the first time I saw him. But Rob's been watching this guy. He sent me this video this morning. So let's watch a little bit of this because I like the way he articulates the caution, so to speak. So go ahead.
Son, and we are going to talk about some very serious stuff, y'all, because they are lying to your face in Ohio over there. All right. We'll try to blast this video off real quick so we can put the warnings out. Now, if you guys aren't following the situation in Ohio, they had a train derailment full of chemicals that make plastics and all this stuff. One, if this environmental thing was such a big deal like they keep claiming, right? You got to get rid of all this gas and petrol and all this stuff, right? We have to go electric, man. We have to save the environment, man. Well, now you know it's baloney, because if they wanted to save the environment, they wouldn't have let Norfolk Southern blow that dioxin up into the air. First off, they would have found a different way to handle that. That was a call made by the train company, from what I'm understanding. And, they'd be there right now working their butts off, cleaning it up. We're like 2 weeks later, and they're just now saying, wow, well, I guess we'll go over there then. You guys are making enough noise about it. Gee whiz. It's the great setup, y'all. The great setup. Okay, so there's a lot of chemicals on there. Dioxin is one of them. It's used in all this stuff. There was like 6 train cars so far they're finding out that had chemicals on it, or 2 or 3 or 4. Don't get caught up in the minutia. The bottom line is that a train carrying hazardous chemicals derailed suspiciously, I guess you could say, in Palestine, Ohio, East Palestine, Ohio. Don't get caught up in the minutia, okay? And they let it sit there for a while. Then they burned it, a controlled burn. The decision was made by Norfolk Southern, was not made by the EPA or anybody who knows what's up. And I have clips here. I'll show you this clip right here. What the gentleman who works with hazmat materials says that you should have done with those cars, in one man's opinion. And they did the complete opposite.
I got involved in this because news media were not being told the truth. Days into this, train consist was available. They didn't know what they had. And, that flies in the face of logic. If you're going to mitigate a problem, if you're going to have your fire department and other, responding teams take care of it, you should know what the heck you've got. And it got to the point where they were showing me pictures of train cars, the local media, and I was identifying what was in based on UNID numbers or train car numbers. And when they told me their plan, at that point you had a few cars burning. They had unmonitored hand lines there keeping the tankers cool. And then I find out that they're pulling the unmonitored hand lines, keeping the tankers cool. And so that's just going to cause the tanker cars to heat up, which they did. And then they announced that one was very near catastrophic failure. And I said, well, if they don't put water back on it, it's going to continue to heat up, and it's going to what's called a bloody, and it's going to damage other containers. And then I was told, no, they're going to detonate all these cars so that it doesn't happen. I could tell you, Mr. Carlson, I've been looking at rail incidents over and over because in Youngstown, Ohio, there's 3 rail lines that run through our town. So as a chief and as a instructor, I trained my guys to anticipate stuff. And I would go case study after case study after case study, coming up with different scenarios just to keep it going. And I've never once in 39 years ever heard of them blowing up train cars, dumping all the chemicals into a trench and lighting them on fire. I was dumbfounded. And, when you lit this stuff on fire, you were creating phosgenes, you were creating hydrogen chlorides, you created this plume, and up in this plume was all the incomplete combustion products of everything that was there. Stuff, if you looked at the guy's video, stuff is precipitating down into people's property. And there's a lot of questions, and the answers came slow. And, first you get, well, now we found vinyl chlorides in the water. Well, yeah, no joke. You're going to find that, and it seemed like everything was drips and dribbles. Instead of, one of the things I learned is you tell the truth, you tell it all, you tell it first, and you tell them how you're going to solve the problem. And none of that was forthcoming. And I began to worry about, what the end result of this was going to be. They had evacuated 1 mile, and I was telling the media they better do like 1.5, 2 miles. Well, subsequently after that, they went to 2 miles. And then within a few minutes, a few days, they were bringing everybody back. And that was pretty much just in time to open up the rails. And there was no testing. There's got to be some plan going forward in this cleanup and recovery to test.
So now we see what he says about it. They would have been hosing off the cars and keeping the temperature.
So pause it there, Katie. And so if anybody remembers, a couple of years ago, they were talking about Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan, the water problem up there. It's not safe to drink. Hurting people, killing people, people getting sick off the water in Flint, Michigan. Then it went away. Well, the problem didn't go away. Flint, Michigan is still there, and there's still a need there, and there's still a problem with the water there, but it just went out of the news cycle, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I suspect the same thing's going to happen in East Palestine, and we're going to remember it for a while, but these people are going to live there. And guys, go check out. I noticed a couple of you guys were familiar with Doug and Stacy and their channel. Go watch the whole video. I think it's 7 or 8 minutes long. He talks about an incident that happened in Missouri where they had to basically dig up a town and shut the town down. The town was gone. They had to get rid of the town. and there were neighborhoods of houses that looked like people just got up and left because it wasn't safe to live there anymore. I wish I could just will this. You know what I'm saying? Like, just say, hey, I don't want this to happen, And of course, there's power in prayer. Lord, change this, help these people. I don't know what to do. I don't want this to be. I'm just like, this is really frustrating me. I can't imagine. I told my wife tonight, I said, could you imagine if we had to walk out of this house right now and not look back?
Yeah.
Where would we go?
Yeah.
And then how in the world will we start over?
Yeah.
Could you imagine that? Almost 5,000 people in that town. So, Rob, we talked about this morning, and we're asking, what can we do? What should the church's response be?
Yeah.
Is there anybody doing anything? And I've since found out there's a lot of people doing a lot of things, okay? But I'm sure that there's more help, that's needed. I want to talk about all this, but I just want to mention that this is just one thing that I found, and it's on, I lost it now. How did that happen? So, okay, so there is a Facebook page, okay, called United for East Palestine. And then in parentheses, it says Ohio. If you want to follow what's going on, you guys can go there. I'm curious, if there's any churches up there and how they're doing, and, how can we pray for these pastors? But just kind of looking, I went through this Facebook page and just kind of randomly looking at some of the things it says. It says, thank you for the outpouring support of the East Palestine community. And then it says, here's a list of verified places to donate that will help those in need. And then some of the posts are asking about, is anybody having any symptoms? They're trying to collect evidence, things like this, and on and on and on. But United for East Palestine on Facebook, I'm sure there's other groups out there, but that's the one that I found. And it's a place where you can go and get information. You can follow that and see what's going on. This is going to be going on long after we have forgotten about it. Okay. And then, guys, there's reports of all over the place, and we don't know if it's connected, of acid rain, of people with rashes outside of that area, right? Mm-hmm. And there is the concern of the wind and the rain. Okay. One of the things that this chemical does is it attaches itself to water. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when it was burnt off, goes up in the atmosphere, attaches itself to water, and then water, whenever it decides to come down, with this chemical on it, is not going to be safe. That could end up anywhere. Okay, that could go around the world 5 times before it comes down. So anyway, I don't want to. I'm going over a lot of stuff here, and I don't want to. I don't want you guys to miss a chance to comment on anything that I'm saying. But we do want to talk about, solutions. What should the church do? What are you guys' thoughts on this? Mm-hmm. So, Rob?
Well, I just keep thinking about the body of Christ. And, I think about, you read Matthew earlier. I was in Matthew, I think it's chapter 20, where Jesus is talking, and he says, he says that the last thing that he says is, when you've done this to the least of these, you've done it to me. And referring to, when I was naked, you clothed me, hungry, you fed me. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but what good are we as Christians if people, you know, if we go through life oblivious to the needs around us, you know, which is sometimes the case. I'm 2 hours away from my hometown and wondering, you know, are there people that I could call? Could I help organize something? Could I do something? You know, I am going to be in Youngstown this coming weekend for another event that I have to be at. But while I'm there, I'm gonna talk to some people and I'm gonna talk to some pastors and that I know and see if there's anything that the church, you know, if the churches have, you know, at the very least taken up collections or, you know, as a space some of these people could be given in a sanctuary or a multi-purpose hall or you know, or other people's homes, that some of these families, especially with children, could be taken out of that area. Because you've got to think there are probably people stuck there because they've sunk all of their money into their home. Now they have no equity. Who's going to buy their home? And they're living in a contaminated area. Their jobs are centered around that area. Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? You know, without someone reaching out and saying, come on, here's a leg up. It's always easier, you know, to move out of an area when you have someone that you know in the area that you're going to that can put you up and help you out and whatnot. So I'm just kind of brainstorming out loud to all of you in the comments that are, you know, all you folks out there watching this, if you're in the Youngstown area or, you know, in the surrounding area there, or even here in Mansfield. I mean, yeah, it's a 2-hour drive, but, you know, 2 hours to keep some little child from having to live, you know, and that child's family having to live in the midst of this area. Because honestly, I don't think we don't know, but I don't even think the powers that be that are looking at this know how, just the fullness of how bad this is going to be for people that have to stay in that contaminated area long term. You know, the story that Doug and Stacy tells on the video that you referenced for people to watch, you'll see that where he's talking about that area where they closed the town out, it was for a much, much, much smaller event, and it was only 1 or 2 of the chemicals that are listed amongst all the chemicals that went up in flames and into the ground in this situation. So that just gives you an idea of how, you know, how really bad it is, and it just, I don't know. So I'm just kind of throwing it out there. I don't have the answers, but you know, we should all be praying for the Lord to show us what to do, to, you know, to make avenues for these people, because ultimately, not only are we helping them physically and maybe saving them from future disease, we're also sharing the gospel with them. We're also being what Jesus calls us to be in these situations. So that's my take on it.
Yeah. I mean, it's so overwhelming when you're in a situation like this, just in your own mind, to think like, oh my gosh, what kind of difference could I make? And I'm so far away and I don't have money, or like whatever. It's so overwhelming. You know, obviously the ultimate solutions for healing and provision are going to come through that intercessory prayer first and foremost. I think just I've grown so cynical about some of this stuff. I guess I would suggest, so many times the people after these disasters that are holding out the coffers are the ones that propagated it. So they're the ones benefiting from it. So I think I would much rather get some sort of list of actual pastors in that area who have churches and they're real boots on the ground and they're people just like you and I, where that money could go directly to the families to get them reestablished. And because, you know, as soon as they start having the little telethons on TV and they raise $4.5 million, we don't know where that money goes or who's profiting off of that. So I don't know if we can get a Facebook page or if there's already one, but it sure would be nice to be able to get money and resources and job offers and things to the actual people and eliminate the middleman, who's usually not necessarily the most faithful mediators in these situations.
I was reading some of the comments on that Facebook page, and some of them were like saying, "Yeah, we don't want help from the government. This is we're going to help each other."
Good.
And I think that's good.
Yep.
Somebody, Terry said, "Yeah, talking about FEMA. Yeah, they're the ones that are going to run the camps, or they have the camps." That was exposed years ago. And
yep.
That's a little sketchy if FEMA shows up and says, "Hey, we got a camp for you where where you can go to be safe until there's another place." I just can't imagine what this would do to this town. And I'm thinking of so many different things. I'm thinking of churches. Like, I mean, what do you do? I mean, I know what you do. You continue to praise God. You continue to worship God, and you continue to preach the gospel. But there's also that thought and the possibility that your whole congregation is going to have to relocate. And the people that you fellowshipped with, are going to be gone. So, I mean, these are sad things, right? I even thought about, what do you do if you're a real estate agent in that area? How do you sell houses anymore? And I mean, there's a lot of bad things going on in the world. I'm not trying to throw a pity party for the real estate agents, but I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, this is crazy. Vic, you and I have talked a lot about in the past months about what's happening out in the West Coast with the Colorado River, and it's running dry, and Lake Mead and Lake Powell are running dry, and there's too many people using the water up there. There's not enough melt, off of the west side of the Rockies, apparently. So they're having a problem that they don't think is going to be solved in our lifetime with the water out there. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, the whole time I'm thinking, man, I'm glad I don't live out there. I'm glad I don't live out there. I'm glad I'm safe in Ohio. And here we are. And this goes to show you, folks, don't forget about a little book. When I say little, I say that in jest, a little book called The Black Awakening, where we were warned by our good friend Russ Dizdar about events like this and sabotage like this. And he talked about poisoning the water. He talked about shutting down the grid. This is only one event. This is only one event that has devastated not only a town, but could contaminate water all the way down the Ohio River to some degree. And those, like you mentioned, Rob, water that's coming in even to our area here. And I've seen those graphs, and I don't know how to read them. I don't know what I'm looking at, but I'm like, I just look for my county, and I'm like, oh shoot, I'm in there, right?
Yeah.
So, we're going to talk about this later, and we kind of postponed our show plan for tonight till next week, but I'll mention the title of it. It was called For Such a Time as This. Here we are. And what are we going to do? We can't run and hide. We got to deal with this. I can't just close my eyes and then hope it all goes away. It's not going away. It's here. And maybe people felt the same way about World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War. It was devastating. There was so much loss of life, even American citizens. And I don't necessarily think that what we're going through is worse than what they went through, but it's worse because it's us, right? Because we're here. That's in the past, and we have to deal with this. And I just don't feel like we're equipped like our ancestors were to deal with things like this. So, folks,
yeah, it's kind of interesting with the whole concept of
did we lose Vic? She froze up on us.
Froze up.
Yeah, let's see if she comes back, because I really wanted to hear what she was going to have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Vic, are you there? Come back to us, Vic. So, folks, prayers are needed. Help is needed. I mentioned one site, United for East Palestine, and they give, you have to really search that site because there's a lot of posts, okay? That's on Facebook, and you can find places that that are legit places that you can donate to, whether it would be water, money, food, Rob, you and I living in Ohio, one of the things I want to make sure is that none of my vegetables or produce comes from that area, right?
Yeah. That's the thing is,
For years.
there's a lot of farms around that area. What's going to happen for them?
And then a lot of people, that's how they eat. They're going to have to go somewhere else to get food.
Yep.
So you mentioned a lot of the Amish, I think. Is that an Amish area?
Yeah, there's Amish in and around that surrounding area, Columbiana County, all the way down through over into Pennsylvania. Quite a good swath of Amish. So, I don't even know how this is affecting them. How close were they? It's, like you said earlier, with the rain, the rainfall, the stuff goes up in bonds to the water.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, the Lord knows.
Well, these are interesting times. So it's, I tell you what, it's not for the faint of heart. We're going to have to draw close. We're going to have to draw our strength from the Lord and his word.
Yes.
And we're going to have to, let me put it this way. I was talking to a friend over the weekend, and we were talking about some of the events of the last few years. And I said, what do we do? What do we do when we can't go to a hospital anymore because they won't let us in because we don't have, if it comes down to this, like their code or their shot or whatever. I was like, I asked him, I said, what do we do? And I knew the answer. But he just reminded me, we're going to have to completely rely on God.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to completely rely on God. And I was thinking, in a different realm. I'm like, okay, but that was the best answer,
Mm-hmm.
And
yes,
this is going to be an opportunity to increase our faith. Okay, it's going to be an opportunity just to have a more intimate time, with the Lord, praying, intercessory prayer, okay, and worshiping God, okay. I love the idea of worshiping God. The enemy hates being around, okay, when God is lifted up. And when God is lifted up, it draws people to himself. So anyway, hey, I just got a word that Vicky she might be done for tonight. She's having issues with her Wi-Fi, wherever she's at. But anyway, guys, yeah, we're gonna be back. Of course, the rest of this week. Yeah, it's good to be back. Like I said, had a good rest, had some productive time and non-productive time, and it's glad to be back here with you guys, folks. We are dedicated to doing the best that we can with this show. We want to put out the best content. We want the gospel to be preached. We want the church to be edified. We want evil to be exposed. Okay. We want you guys to be trained. We want you guys to join us. We want you guys to be inspired. Folks, we are in a war. The Christian life is not like a war. It is a war. And there is really no shore leave. Our soldiers get shore leave, when they go into the military, but we don't get a break. And I believe there's rest in God, and I believe his burden is light and his yoke is easy. Praise God for that. But iron sharpens iron, and that's why we do this show. We appreciate you guys so much subscribing to the channel. We bumped up over 1,500 over the last couple weeks, and we're just going to continue to move forward. We are praying about, Lord, what other doors can you open for us, and what other things can we do to be more effective in preaching the gospel and reaching people and seeing people set free. Guys, we got some really cool shows lined up for you this week. Vicky Joy and I are going to be back for 2 more nights. We have a special guest, a returning guest on Wednesday night. And then on Thursday night, Colleen James is going to be back with a reclamation project. Guys, I'm picking the song this week for Audiotopsy, and I am really excited. I found a song. It's like a buried treasure. So I can't wait to share this song with you guys this week. I hope you guys check it out. It's from the 70s. The theme for this season is going to be 60s and 70s songs. Pastor Sean Carter. This man, I don't know how he gets any rest. He works so hard. He's out running his heart out, and he breaks his foot, okay? And then he's doing church, and he's pastoring church, and he does a show for us, and then he's coming to Ohio to speak. So he's going to be back Saturday night, Supernatural Saturdays. We have a full week, a full season, 5 weeks of this stuff for you. So, guys, we appreciate your prayers so much. Thank you to everybody that's been buying our shirts, that supports us, sending us donations. Guys, we don't ever beg for money, but you guys know that there's a spot on the website. If you want to support us, we need your support, guys. So thank you so much. Don't forget about the conference. And if you did forget about it, then here's a little trailer. We'll see you tomorrow night.